For Sarah, it was just absolutely terrifying. She didn't have anything really explained to her. I remember her first phone call, she thought she had actually been kidnapped initially, and she was just terrified. So they were put into a van, and then they were taken somewhere. They had no idea where they were, and they were then questioned. She was actually forced to spend the night on a mat on the floor with a singular emergency blanket with all the lights on. She had a couple panic attacks. They did call a paramedic for her just before shipping her over to Texas. So her son and her are together. The conditions within the facility is very similar to a prison. It is a locked room. They're allowed to walk around the facility from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. However, they are detained and locked into it in the evening. There is 5 different bunk beds in the room and multiple families who share the room. And unfortunately for Sarah, she is the only family within the facility that speaks English. So the issues that she had was a very minor paperwork issue. Because Sarah is on a combination visa, when her work employment was renewed and verified, they did not explain to her that her I-360 itself, although it is on the same physical card, was still in a pending status, which means her ability to travel to and from Canada would have also been in a pending status. However, all 3 of her children, their cards were renewed and their travel document was approved on time as well. So the fact that they still chose to detain her son Isaac is completely illegal. And honestly, the discrepancy in the paperwork did not make Sarah inadmissible to the U.S. DHS could have readmitted her through humanitarian parole, Section 212D5. However, they made the independent decision not to, despite her requesting that. At the facility, she's not having many conversations. They are not explaining anything to her. It took her 2.5 weeks to figure out exactly why she was even being detained. She's faced multiple threats from the ICE officer in charge of her case and has really been left in the dark for a lot of this process. Initially, when she was at the Canadian border, she immediately called her lawyer, to which they responded by immediately confiscating her cell phone and not allowing her to speak with her legal representation. Once she did get to the ICE facility, she was threatened by Officer Contreras to be very careful who she speaks to in a very threatening manner, and Sarah became very afraid about speaking with her legal attorney. So I've actually been speaking with her on Sarah's behalf for the most part. Sarah was not even made aware that she was going to be able to be helped by the New Zealand embassy. That's actually ICE's job and the facility's job to offer that to her, which they did not. So we were actually unaware until maybe last night that was even available to Sarah. However, I did just get off the phone with the New Zealand embassy. I was speaking with Michael Allen, and they are reaching out to the facility to advocate for both Sarah and Isaac's release. Well, the best case scenario is actually realistic because it is legal. Sarah is having her interview today with USCIS, and they were having a meeting to determine whether or not they were going to release Isaac on the 14th. A lot of the news coverage has put pressure on the facility to behave and act within their administrative limits. And as for Sarah, her work visa is still current. She still is able to be within the United States, and all of her son's paperwork was current and approved. So there was actually no reason for him to be detained.